Palia has introduced so many new things lately, and I've decided to start designing a brand new plot. The update that I'm most inspired by are all the new plot settings that give background landscapes. We have the Killima Heights Cliff, the Wooded Grove, and the Shipwreck Isles. I've been thinking a lot about which style I want to start next and have been most inspired by the Shipwreck Isle. I converted a new plot over to this background and was immediately excited to explore the new area. Just running around the new map feels amazing, and all three of the plots have really great details to give you inspiration and create a new style or design. I'm just showing you a couple of the areas on this map because I don't want to spoil your own exploration of it if you get the map too. There are a lot of cool things to see. The most important thing is to determine how we are going to start designing the new area and exactly what type of theme we want to go with. I may even put a couple themes together on this one. One of the sets I'm planning to focus on are all the repurposed makeshift items that you can fish up in waterlogged chests. This would be a really hard set to work around if you're new to Palia and don't have many items yet, but I've been playing for quite some time now and I have most, if not all, of the set to work with. I also want to try out some of the fire furniture. I know they may not seem like they go together. We better just get started so you can see what I mean. The first decision I'm trying to make for the island is whether or not to even use the typical housing buildings. They don't fit the mood or vibe I have in mind, so I spent a long while changing out the wallpaper and roof patterns to try and better match the vision in my head. After trying out a lot of the different things, this is what I have picked out to use. The first is the burnt barrel tile roof, then the emberborn wall, and the wine garnet stucco wall. These are the three for the outside of the building. I also picked out a couple things for the inside, even though that might change. The earthy jasper stucco wall, the paper screen wallpaper, and the reclaimed wood floor, which is probably my favorite flooring in the game. The other option would be to use the original tent and building blocks instead of the building structures themselves. The tent didn't really fit the vibe I was going for either, and I feel like trying to put a building together for everything is going to be overwhelming. So at long last, I decided to go ahead and stick with the original building structures and to use the new building block system in the game to put together a second separate structure that we'll talk a lot more about later. I cut down a lot of the trees on the island, all of the birch trees, because they just don't fit the look at all, and several of the oak trees. I prefer palm trees, but without that as an option, I'm still going to use some of the oak trees on the island, so we have the tree, structure. I pulled up the plot building so that I could get a really good overview, and this is one of my favorite parts of Palia, the way that you can pick up and move and switch things around to really put the buildings together, and I thought it was kind of fun to experiment with different angles. For a while, I was even thinking of putting a porch on and making the back the front instead, but then I discovered that the new bay windows, if attached, had a lot more of that open feel and less of the cottage core feel. It's a beach, and if you were going to have a vacation home on the beach, you would definitely want really big windows so that you could look out at the ocean. I started pulling items out of my inventory that kind of matched the vibe I was going for, and again, really focusing on all of the makeshift furniture and the emberborn fire furniture. Pulling things out so you can kind of see them together and get a feel for what your colors and styles are by spreading everything out is actually a trick that I've been using in a lot of different games. I did this all the way back in my AC&H days. Even if you can see a picture of the items in your inventory, really putting them in the world so that you have a good feel as to what that item really is and the space it takes up and how it looks with other things around it is a really good way to get inspiration and figure out how to put things together. Doing this also gives me a really good feel for other things that might be missing in the design that I'm doing, so I can go craft them or get those ready to go. So I highly recommend doing this when you're trying to establish a theme, when you're trying to establish a vibe. It's also a great way to burst through that little bit of a delay you may feel in starting a new design. With the building structure in place, the very first thing I want to work on is a really beautiful lit path that goes from the entrance all the way to the building. And I want it to kind of wind and have a little bit of an angle and be completely surrounded by these torches. This fairly basic torch that you get so early in the game is actually really perfect for the theme I'm going for. It's got that tiki torch sort of vibe that I think will be really good for a tropical environment. I started spacing them out and it wasn't working. It just wasn't what I was looking for. So I went back through and did kind of every other one. And then I sort of loosened and softened the angle a little bit. I also decided to follow some of the pattern on the ground. There's like this really pretty coral structure with starfish where the texture on the ground is different than everything else in the sand around it. I used that element on the map to be a little bit of a worn path look. There are a lot of really cool path pavers in the game, and I'll be getting around to using those in other areas, but for this big wide open path, I wanted it to mostly be sand, so I was really pleased with how that effect came together. I also gathered up a palette of flowers when I was putting items together. I really wanted to focus on the brighter orange and yellows with some brighter greens and put together that tropical palette. I may use some of the pinks in there too, but for now I was just focusing on orange and yellow. My goal is to sort of cluster the tropical flowers together around each of my tiki torches so that I can create like these beautiful little decorations of pretty tropical islandness. Obviously, these would have been cultivated and put together on purpose. I switched out the torches at the very beginning for the beautiful Emberborn torches. I just felt like it gave it some really good strength, and as the very beginning of this path came together, it is exactly the vibe that I was looking for. This right here, as the sun is setting and everything is lit, we have that fire, we have the tropical, we have that beautiful feel of a vacation, and that is what I want for this map. The path is mostly done now. A lot of the elements of this island have come together. We have really cute little spaces to sit and kind of have a picnic on the beach. I've used a lot of the paver tiles just in other areas of the island. You can see as you walk along, just mismatched and not aligned perfectly. These planks really reminded me of the type of thing you would see at a beach, just placed down into the sand to help with walking around. And then there's, of course, a fire pit over here that I've put a whole entire area together for. On the other side of the building, I haven't finished everything over here yet, but you can see that the path goes all the way around to the back where there's a patio and then, of course, a latrine, which I feel like is perfect. There's no bathroom inside this little cottage. You gotta get a little rustic and, get out of your normal mode if you're gonna come vacation on an island. But I really love the way that the structures, the path, and the organization of everything is coming together. Obviously, the island isn't done yet, but I also don't want to fill every single bit of the sand in. So while we're gonna have some other decorative elements and a few things mixed in, I don't want to fill every single space of the island. There still has to be some open area of sand to really enjoy, but my tropical getaway, vacation, beach island is definitely coming together. I've decided to make this a really short little series with just 2 or 3 videos to showcase how I'm putting this vacation island together. If you've been watching the video this long, please don't forget to like and subscribe and do all those YouTube things. And for now, I hope you all have the best Palia day.